if you don't continue to give people an opportunity to buy or ascend, they will find that from someplace else. The two reasons why people stop buying from you is you offend them or you stop selling to them. And most businesses suffer from the latter. They don't offend their customers, they just stop selling to them.
It's everybody's favorite time of the week. We're here with Matt Deseno on Reading Rape. No, we're here with Matt Deseno for Marketing with Matt.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's the sentiment is there's no sleepy marketing. This is always like loud and smashing in your face, but maybe there could be sleepy marketing. I don't know how attractive it would be.
We'll start a marketing ASMR.
Yeah, that's who's in favor of that. Okay, we're talking, this is the part 2 of my decade in a day. And part 1, we were talking how I thought about the questions I was going to ask. Now we're going to fully unbox it. What were the questions that I asked? What were the answers that I got? And how does it apply to you and anybody listening and when it comes to marketing? And so the question that I asked, I had a couple, I had lots of questions I could do, but so specifically around marketing in an early moment. So we have one of our products is just right time, right place, and has, you call it early mover advantage. And so there are things where like on day one, there was maybe nobody else doing what we were doing. However, the market was attractive enough that we quickly had fast followers. We had imitations. It's funny. Well, so for perspective, we'll get into it. But in the moment, so this is what was happening. Not actually when I was talking with Russell, but earlier this year. It was like we had it. It was great. And it wasn't bad, but there was just like a lot of alternatives and copycats popping up all over the place. And so I wanted to ask about that is what do you do when you got first mover advantage? How do you think of it in that place? And then like, what do you do when competitors come in or alternatives come in, and how do you kind of respond to that? Because I know they've lived through that and grown through it. And maybe I'll just go question and answer at a time. So here was his response, and I've already seen this validated, is when it comes to effective marketing, endurance is undervalued, but an incredible asset to have. And so the ability to persist in a single area, to continue to perfect, to get better, to improve, is a unspoken advantage in anything that you do. Is there are so many things that are just like you consistent. So I've talked about this before, but it was a revelation or just a reminder. And we've seen that to be true. A lot of alternatives that popular that sprung up were kind of like riding a trend, have dissolved and gone away. They've just literally faded into the background. And I don't know if, they couldn't stay ahead in terms of product development or continue to pursue excellence or get beyond just grabbing a quick buck. And so that was a good reminder and refresh there. It went beyond that. And this is, I think, helpful for anybody to think about your product market fit or your fit in the marketplace. Think about it in levels. And so this is the concept of the value ladder. It's so foundational, but it's easy to like fall out of it. And so if you think, if I drew a ladder, or not a ladder, a staircase, it should be called the value staircase. If I drew a staircase as it's often illustrated, and you've got the bottom, the first step of the staircase, this could be free or low price, or how do people engage, like start the engagement with your business. And then there's a little higher tier, higher price, higher connection, whatever it is. And then there's the highest tier of the step. And this is often considered your value ladder, or I should popularize the value staircase. And so on this value staircase, it is a more robust thing to have. A lot of folks, when they're starting off, or when you have a product or a division or something, like you have one thing. If I was thinking about this and I was talking to somebody, they're like, well, I own a gym. I don't have a value staircase. I have one value box, and you can jump on top of it. You can jump off of it, right? They just have the box jump. And it is more robust to think, what would it look like to have additional steps? What does it look like to have the possibility to downgrade or to start at a lower level? And what does it look like to upgrade or have a higher level? So that practice of building out your value stack or your value staircase is helpful. And that was a little piece of the advice there, is looking at like, sure, you've got one thing, people come in, and that's robust. As you expand, as you grow, as you mature, you're going to want to introduce things that end up a little bit more on the front end of how do you continue to widen that net and attract people in. And then some folks and the ability to ascend, folks that are going to want a higher tier option or higher tier program, or they just want to graduate. They want to grow with the company. That's a good reminder there is if you don't continue to give people an opportunity to buy or ascend, they will find that from someplace else. And I think this is a Russellism that I'd taken, not from this decade and day, but previously was the two reasons why people stop buying from you is you offend them or you stop selling to them. And most businesses suffer from the latter. They don't offend their customers. They just stop selling to them. And so the customers are forced to go somewhere else for that next level or whatever it might be. And so that was one piece that was helpful in starting to flesh out, okay, what would it look like to make our value staircase, that value stack, a little bit more robust with some lower end or some higher end. And that's usually, you think about it. So usually your core offer is somewhere there in the middle. But maybe you realize, okay, that should actually be the first and we can grow up from there, or however it kind of mixes out to be. So that was one thing, was the question about what do you do with competitors? And so the two pieces were, well, expand your value stack as the market matures, and endure. Stay consistent at your thing. And so it's interesting because for his company, there'll be 10 years. I don't know if it's over 10 years. They're coming up on in next year, not next year, the year after next, they're doing their 10th annual event. So I don't know if that means they're 10 years old, but they've been doing it for at least a decade. Yeah. And in a decade, they came out and created their own language and dominated that space. And there was a season where it felt like they were undeniably the king.
Oh yeah,
in that space. And I've seen them grow through that and actually mature to a point where it doesn't feel like, in my outside observation, it feels like there's so many other alternatives that it doesn't feel like it's a, is that when you have a king, is that a theocracy?
No, that's like a religious leader.
Oh, no, you're right. That theocracy is led by it's like the Pope. Why am I thinking, what's royalty? What's that? A monarchy. That's what I was thinking. It feels like it's grown beyond a monarchy and into something of more like there's, more many leaders. So it isn't a single king and a monarchy. It's like it's matured past that. But it doesn't mean they can't grow and continue to have an impact and continue to generate a lot of income. And so watching them mature into a space where they can still sustain growth and have that, I listen to those words and consider that. And it's funny too from the outside, because some versions of a customer will think like, and even for ourselves, we get bored of our own message. The marketplace, there's still folks out there that don't know you exist.
I saw a picture from this year's Funnel Hacking Live. Russell still had the potato gun story on the wall. Like, for a percentage of the people in that room, it was still the first time they'd heard it.
And that's a discipline in your marketing, is to not evolve beyond speaking to new customers. And I want to break away a little bit. It's funny, we mentioned I went to theocracy, but from a religious perspective, this is funny because it was a mark of, I've seen like good churches or good religious gatherings, is they use a language which assumes there's somebody new. And collectively, everybody starts thinking there should be someone new. So it's like a self-fulfilling process there. And the same thing can be for your customers. If you use a language of like, there should be new customers aren't offended by that. Like, to your example, that is a story. He told a story that was designed for someone who's brand new. The rest of the room is not offended that there's new people there. It's actually encouraging that you're part of something that's growing, that there are new people around, even if you've heard it 3 or 4 or 10 times. And so, so that was those are kind of like the first piece was around how do we respond in a space where it feels like there's competitors, where it feels like there's fast followers. And my 2 takeaways were endure, and then look at making our value stack or our value staircase a little bit more robust. The second piece was in a growth in that season. I think it's so obvious, but sometimes outside in. It's like what happens when you've got a core offer that works, but you want to bring more folks in. This was so obvious. It was good to talk about education. So if we think about this, is there are degrees of folks who are interested, curious, and then ignorant. They don't even know you exist. And we had success selling to curious and interested. That was most of it. Was a slam dunk. Like, they were already looking for this, and they were like, "Oh, this plugs in very easily." So we didn't have to. I don't want to say dumb down, but we didn't have to think of a communication style, a language that assumes you're earlier than our ideal customer. Think of the prospect journey, not just like the customer journey, because that's what we think a lot of. Is like, oh, the prospect journey is like you're curious, and then we wow you, and then you become a customer, and then we surprise and delight you. But there's before that the prospect journey of you may be problem ignorant. You may not even know that there's a problem. You're not problem aware. And so we talked about methods for how you can do that. A lot of it, education works really well. And so there are educational angles from problem and opportunity that we can put at the front end of your marketing that actually creates a better stream of curious and interested parties. So just thinking through of in that segment of like, okay, what are activities that we can do that help to get more curious and interested, not just turning curious or interested into buyers. And so once again, sort of like expanding out that pool. This is kind of part of that more robust value stack or the value staircase, however you conceptualize it. But so we've already in the last month, and I think there was a piece of this too. When you do that, when you expand it out, the math becomes even easier in terms of the opportunity. So let's say for us, we are really good at the nurture process. I know if you are on our list, we will nurture you, and you will probably be confronted with a no-brainer offer and feel like compelled to buy. We're good at that process. So what we needed to get better at is getting more people on the list. And building the list isn't the same thing as building a buyer. You think of it almost like independently, like how can I efficiently build the list? Because I trust it might be 30 days later, but we've got a process here where we will be able to cash flow that list. And so there were, I came back from this and a couple of things was like, okay, we need to expand upon some of the processes for front-end opportunities. And then it was like, we needed to go hard at building that list, and we've seen that. We had a record month for that division of just thinking through that, like, these two takeaways. And I think I have to look back. No, there was one specific offer we changed a little bit higher ticket. So it was like, let's expand upon what's possible for folks to buy. So a little bit of an upsell that didn't previously exist, and then definitely a lot more effort on the front end of how do we help folks that they're not curious or interested, they're not even probably problem aware. How do we attract them into our ecosystem and then predictably ascend them? So
yeah, and it was cool to see. I mean, it's not common that you 4x ad spend and keep results moving in the right direction. It was really neat. It's funny. I had a client a long time ago who was like, Facebook ads don't work. I get all of my sales from my email list. And I was like, hey, so what if we ran Facebook ads to get people onto your email list? And he was like, what? Like, and I'm like, yeah, like the problem with Facebook ads is so many times people just want to sell to a stranger the first time they ever talk to them. And what you just said is like understanding that there's a life cycle there means you can put the energy at the right point at the right time.
100%. So if you're looking for a way to make your marketing more profitable, or you're wondering, how could I expand what I'm currently doing, take a good hard look at your value stack, that staircase of opportunities. See, are there things you can put in on the entry level or things on a higher tier, and then kind of run by the numbers. And that was like, to your point for us, we were like 4x ad spend, maintain profitability. It was because we took a little bit more robust analysis there. Is interesting. We could probably do another episode just looking back at this. We're tracking value per lead as the month went on. So for us, knowing here's the value per lead 7 days after they've been with us, 14 days. I mean, we literally did it day by day, looking at value per lead as we were running this. And unsurprisingly, maybe it's unsurprising, our value per lead tripled over the course of a month. So on day one, you come in, you're worth X dollars to us on average across all the leads that we're doing. And then by day 30, we're worth 3X. That's super helpful. And it was only possible because we thought of it in terms of how do we expand our offering to have a little bit more entry level, even free options, and then some other ascension options.
And having that patience to endure, though, matters too, because there's a lot of people that if in the first week they've scaled up, they don't see the result, they kill everything. Where I'm like, you've got to allow that machine to work. And so, having that, like both of those bullet points of that you're shared definitely apply together.
I'll leave this. This was not the purpose of this show, but I want to give you this golden nugget for anybody who stayed around to the end. I realized that one of the other things that helped in this last month of just a thing like customer satisfaction, we reserve bonuses consistently. We will think of our offer stack. What are we doing? And we will not advertise XYZ feature set, whatever it is, so that when they come in, you can then predictably deliver the bonus. So sometimes we'll delay it out to deliver later. It's like we were holding on to this and we're saying like, oh, here you go. thanks, congrats in. But we had a number of situations. I love the experience where people come in and be like, hey, I was wanting to do this. And somebody else would be like, oh, here's how you do it. It already exists. And that surprise and delight is just hard to quantify how impactful it can be for your business when you're training your customers to expect a magical experience. Like I look at, we live close to Disneyland, and the experience is so cool on so many levels, and it's that kind of a thing. Obviously, it's built in this concept of being magical and childlike wonder, but the more that businesses can introduce that kind of experience and replicate it, the more your other marketing efforts become easier. And that's an X factor for us is, for someone else trying to do it. Like, was it just, oh, we looked at the stack, added a few things in and 4X our ad spend? I think the other factor here is we predictably delighted our customers coming in. And so in a short period there, they were more willing to speak positively about the brand, like all of those things. Like if you don't have positive brand speak and positive word of mouth in the marketplace, it doesn't matter how aggressively you market, it's going to be a struggle. And on the inverse, if you have that, it kind of makes everything else easier.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, well, we've got more coming to you guys in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you share this with a entrepreneur, a SaaSpreneur, somebody else who is interested in growing and having more margin in their life and business.